It's time to be woke, take off your shades, it helps see through the smoke, cause the wicked hide behind the cloak, and if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked, so listen up, cause this hair of the dog, what's real, what ain't, is this the fog or smog, cause there's a difference when you breathe it in, so don't let the corporate media take you for a spin, this that morning show, they put you in the know, so I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, 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 yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the fact.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Wednesday, feels like a Monday, but it's not. It's hump day, which is good for you working stiffs, I guess. I hope everybody had a nice holiday weekend. I'm not going to talk about the holiday that it was because I know that right now a lot of people in the United States are not happy with the United States and are not necessarily celebrating Independence Day. So we will just kind of leave that to the side. Got a chance to go away camping for the first time since last October, Thanksgiving. The restrictions on Ontarians in Canada lifted just enough to allow camping. And so we got together with our group of 8 families that all go camping together. It was a very uplifting trip spiritually for me because it allowed me to be social for the first time in a long time. And I'm going to be honest, I went through quite a bit of depression over the last few months in terms of being stuck in my house without a lot of interaction with anybody. And so we're here now, at least looking like things are going to be at least better for the summer, depending on how things go. Plus, I also got an opportunity to book my second vaccine for Friday, which is much better than September 14th, when it was originally booked. So looking forward to that, to feeling crappy this weekend, but knowing that I'm better protected against the virus that has fucked with our lives for the last year and a half. Anyways, I am kind of biding my time. The reason is that we are still fighting with the specific electrons and photons for Carrie, because Carrie is having issues with her internet once again. And we're still, if you don't understand or don't know, Carrie moved about was a little bit less than a year ago from the Chicago area in Illinois to the Albuquerque area in New Mexico. And her husband are building on a big tall mountain, and of course, as beautiful and open skies and pristine an area as it is equally without internet access. And so she is attempting to figure that out with her cell phone and her cell phone provider to get enough signal up on top of the mountain so that she can do this show with me and anything else that we have on the go. Unfortunately, we are getting the, shall I say, unfortunate poor reception today, and she keeps dropping off the call. This show doesn't necessarily go very well if Carrie isn't here, because, to be honest, she does most of the heavy lifting in terms of researching into stories and all of the honest journalism that she does. And oh, well, and what a segue. Carrie, are you back? Can you hear me?
for the moment. So my apologies to everyone. Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, I am in New Mexico. Andy's in Canada, and in the middle of landlocked New Mexico, we have had a hurricane and 5 days of torrential downpour. Internet is wiped out completely here. We've had crews up and down the street trying to repair things. So I am actually using a cell phone hotspot, and it's got like one bar. So yeah, when we're talking about infrastructure and you're not in a city, internet sucks for everybody. And it's like dial-up speeds. It's horrific. So today I'm limping along, and yeah, this is how it is. So
And as much as we
thank
have
you, Andy,
a
for the really long intro.
yeah, not a problem. As much disdain as we have for Elon Musk and his toying with the Bitcoin community and just being a bad actor, capitalist, neoliberal. Hurry the fuck up and get your satellites up there. Come on.
Right. Well, I'm on the list, and Anadism is recommending Nomad cell service. I'll check it out, but I got to tell you that for 6 months, I was looking for reliable internet, and there's a couple problems with it. The way that the antitrust laws work and have not been upheld, all of these smaller companies are buying service off the big guys. Like I have on my iPhone, I have a reseller of AT&T. Now there's one little tower that sits up on the mountain, and
It's
provides
5 feet tall.
53,000 families. Yeah, 5 feet tall. And if like an eagle or a hawk decides to nest in it, I started the trouble ticket in to ask somebody to go check that. I don't think they're going, but if you fix the cell service for me, you fix it for all these families in the valley too, and they just yeah, not enough profit in it. We don't give a shit. Where are you gonna go? So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so Alex was commenting, Andy, when you were doing your intro about reopening and anything else. Alex says Canada, due to capitalism at richer nations, special interests in government, patent standards from business and richer nations slower than the rollouts, to why Canada is so much slower than the US. Like in the US, we're now trying to convince people to get it. But in Canada, it hasn't been available. Why?
Oh, well, that's simple. The Canadian dollar doesn't have the same buying power as the US dollar, right? In the US, let's be honest, they've been bullying people into, making sure that some places who are friendly to the administration get it before others that don't, right? We know that story about Brazil and them trying to acquire a vaccine that was created by Russia. That was such a good vaccine that it was better than anything that, the US has had available. And the US basically put a kibosh on it and threatened Brazil, so there's that, right? And of course, Canadians were just kind of ordering from everybody, hoping that there's enough available. And we've now seen over the last, I would say, month and a half, that there's certainly now more of our vaccines available now. And of course, we also kind of doubled down on the fact that we were more easily able to get AstraZeneca. And then, of course, the issues with that came around, where we were talking about possible side effects of blood clots, or a number of other issues. And then they were deemed that you couldn't get an AstraZeneca virus as a first dose. You could only get it as a second dose. And then, but it was just because that it looked like there was more available to Canada because other countries said no to it. But now that Pfizer and Moderna have ramped up their production, at least to a degree that there's more available, instead of big, huge waiting lines waiting for these to come out, that we've switched to those two that are more available. And we have gotten enough that we can ram as many through as possible currently with all of our pop-up clinics. And the other thing that they were waiting to find out was that if the science caught up with the fact that if you got one as a first dose, how effective would it be to get a different one as a second dose, right? So if it's the Pfizer and Moderna one, those are both mRNA vaccines. They're both extremely similar, almost identical. So it really didn't matter between those two if you got one and you got the other as 1 and 2. It was more along the lines of, if your first one was AstraZeneca, would it be effective to get one of the other two as your second because of the problems with it? And eventually they said, yes. I'm not sure what the efficacy rate is of doing that, but apparently it's better than nothing, right? So whatever, you know, you can take that with a grain of salt. But so that's kind of where we are now, that we have enough to go with. I'm still thinking that Miss Carrie,
Gotcha.
there she is. There she is. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I keep dropping in and out, so my apologies. The question came in about how am I dealing with a hurricane in New Mexico? Yeah, that's exactly right. So what happened was the heat wave, the heat dome over the northern Pacific pushed all of the moisture and everything towards the south. And there was a hurricane off the coast of Mexico. So it just drove it right through New Mexico, through the desert. So this is the wettest desert I think I've ever experienced. So, it's a crappy desert.
It's
it's
kind of like calling it, you're the tallest short person I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Alex, yes, Canada is catching up for sure, and they're doing well currently with vaccines. Yeah, you're right. So just in time too, because I've been watching the Delta variant as it came through, and after the 4th of July holiday, we're going to see it spike. It's growing exponentially at a magnitude of 10, which is a lot. And so all those people who haven't been vaccinated, we're seeing death rates within 7 days instead of weeks. So that's something that I definitely want to cover on Friday, provided I have internet. So there's that. But all right, let's try to get through this, Andy, because we got some pretty heavy things to cover. And the first one that I wanted to talk about real quick was Herschel Walker. He lives in Texas, but he owns property in Atlanta. He's considering a bid for U.S. Senate, running as a Republican. He has the backing of Trump and Trump supporters. This is one to watch. I think he's actually going to put his hat in the ring, file the paperwork, and get it done. So
now, just a point
Senate.
Before you continue, Carrie. This is the Herschel Walker, or is this just a Herschel Walker?
Yes, it is Herschel Walker.
Running back, amazing football player. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Hall of Famer.
And Trump fan.
Yep, he's the guy. Trump fan. And of course, part of the 1%. You know, I don't begrudge him his money, but I do begrudge the 1%ers using their influence because they want to keep things out of balance for folks. So Herschel Walker the fact that it's making headlines, he's likely going to run. And so that will be one Senate seat for the Republican column. And in fact, it's midterms and the Democrats know this, and they seem to be openly courting the fact that they want to lose the majority. So
Well,
there you
I,
go.
I would say that
Each
just because you
vote.
spent your entire career in football running doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you should be doing now.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. It's okay. We're doing well. Keep it going, Carrie.
Okay. All right. I'm limping along. This is just so ridiculous. All right. Well, let's get into it before I lose connection altogether. Andy, this is
Okay.
the first graphic of the First Amendment, and this one had me laughing. Hobby Lobby always does this, and people were screeching on the 4th of July when they put out a marketing ad advocating for a theocracy, right? So this is not the first time they've done it, and from a marketing perspective, this is called guerrilla marketing. There is no bad publicity, and that's what they went for, and they're catering to a very specific audience, right? So they went out there and they posted this really pretty ad about the religion and one nation under God, which was changed in 1954 to add God to it. So everybody was just throwing a fit. Well, what I thought was interesting is they put some Bible quotes in there, and the U.S. wasn't a thing when the Bible was written. And then they put in some what turned out to be edited quotes. These were not legitimate quotes from founding fathers. And kudos to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. This was founded by Ronald Reagan's son. They were able to point out that the company had altered many of these quotations without providing the full context, because of course you want to cherry pick the quotes, and if it doesn't fit your narrative, you put it in there, right? So yeah.
So from what I understand, Carrie, is
from
that
a marketing perspective, again, this is guerrilla marketing.
That from that as a young man, you know, in his 20s, Jesus went to visit the U.S.
Yeah. That's nowhere in the Bible at all.
Well, they wanted to keep it quiet.
Make it up. Make it up to fit your narrative for a marketing purpose. And this is what I thought was so brilliant about what they did, is they knew they were bullshit. They knew they were doing this. And what I thought was ironic was they're Trump supporters. The founder of this organization, David Green, he's a born-again Christian, and he's a Trump supporter. So when they put this ad out there advocating for a theocracy, I'm like, wait a second, Biden's Catholic. So are you saying that these 6 to 7 million Catholics in the U.S. aren't Christian? And I was like, okay, so from a marketing perspective, you're going to get everybody talking about your brand, and that's phenomenal. And that's exactly what they did. So obviously they're catering to a very niche market, and they're able to stay successful. But here's the thing. They've been paying a $15 an hour livable wage for 10 years. I think it's 10 years. So they don't necessarily provide benefits, but they do have a $15 an hour. But if you do, it's on. But the Christian, a Catholic Christian, I'm like, aren't you profiting off religion every time you're selling all of that stuff, and it's not a non-for-profit, you're for-profit corporation and you're selling religious icons and things like that. Wasn't that in the Bible about the money changers and Jesus actually going after people with a whip? Kind of pissed him off, but let's not, mention that.
Who needs benefits when you have God?
That's exactly right. So I didn't want to touch too much on religion because I know that there is a pushback going on right now, particularly with the orphanages, and people are burning down churches. And this is part of the reason why people are burning down churches, because leaders, we call them the fat old men in dresses, are not leaning into the moment and reading the morality of it. Then you're going to get people reacting. So yeah, here it is again, religion. And of course you'll have
Gary, are you there?
I have to say evangelicals talk about their being persecuted.
Carrie, I was just wondering if maybe this isn't a good thing to talk about right now, because if your internet connection is really close to going out, maybe you shouldn't maybe we shouldn't talk about God, just in case.
You know what? I don't think God has anything to do with the capitalism and monopoly over the internet.
No, but I think he's good friends with Mother Nature.
True. But we'll see how it goes. Everybody say a little prayer, hold my internet. But one of the pieces that I thought was interesting, being a Christian in the United States, we have this idea of what separation of church and state actually is, and it's not necessarily a thing. So it's just like free speech. Those laws protect you from the government. So under the Constitution, separation of church and state is not exactly mentioned, but it's implied in some respects. So you cannot have a law that caters to one specific religion over another, because big melting pot, right? And from the history of our nation, we had people who believed they were persecuted, some who actually were, who just wanted to worship as they wanted to. And we have so many different religions, including Pastafarians and whatever else, Church of Satan. All of these people have to be free to practice their religion within reason. You can't, Church of Satan, you can't sacrifice animals and people. Just that's a no. So I pulled up.
Well, we seem to be losing in the game of internet roulette today. This is kind of this is obviously interfering with our broadcast, and I'd like to apologize that this is kind of beyond our control, and it's nice thing that we can do to blame climate change for this, because clearly this is the reason we're seeing the horrible weather patterns that we've seen in the southern US and on the west coast of both in Canada and the United States. It's at one point 2 weeks ago at 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, when Carrie and I were about to start our show. If you didn't watch it, it was 85 degrees in where I was in Canada, and it was 55 degrees in New Mexico. Right. And so that's problematic. And we have these changing weather things that are wreaking havoc with people's abilities to be comfortable in lives, and we've seen the deaths that were reported in the Portland area, in Oregon and Washington State, and in Western Canada, in the Vancouver area, where the temperatures with the human index were in the 115-degree range. And this is just insane, right? If you're still on the fence about climate change, then you really got to give yourself a shake, because we are destroying our ability to live on this planet for the short-term financial gain of a handful of people in society. And we're going to only see this get worse. And if we don't change our ways, and we don't come to an understanding and start to bring people to account that have done this to us, then we deserve the fate we get, right? We have to only open our eyes and look around us to see what's happening in not just North America, but everywhere in the world. There are now places within the eastern portions of Asia that are becoming uninhabitable, specifically places like Bangladesh, who really, if their country becomes uninhabitable, really only have one recourse of fleeing their country, which is in the direction of a country that despises them because of religion. And so if you're thinking that this is just a problem in terms of people relocating, just simply to get out of the way, we're now talking about nations that despise one another and the potential for conflict because of it. Right? There are a lot more political issues involved with relocation and climate change than just people fleeing rising waters or unbearable heat or dangerous storms, right? And so these are all very real things. You know, just before the pandemic started, if you recall, the wildfires that were destroying much of Australia's beautiful forests, that was, you know, unconscionable what was happening. That is the beginning of it, right? This is the beginning of the end for us if we don't figure out how to change that, or change the minds of those in charge, that your short-term profit is not important than our survival. And, you know, Bernie Sanders has been saying that for, you know, his two campaigns. Well, you know, for a lot longer than that. But, you know, we have the Sunrise Movement. The kids get it. They understand it's their future that we're jeopardizing, right? Us old folks will be long dead before any of this gets really bad. But do we not care about our children so much that we can't provide them with a future? That makes no sense to me. I know that as a parent, that I've always had the mentality that I want my kids to have a better life than I had. I want them to be more successful than I was. I don't know a lot of parents that have said that haven't said that have said the exact same thing. They want a better life for their kids. Yet we chastise them on social media for being weak or for being, you know, offended by things, right? And we continue to do the things that destroys their future on this planet. How can we look ourselves in the face and say that we did everything we could for our kids if we don't care about their future? Like, that's a ridiculous thing. We have to wake up and understand that hard choices need to be made. And your comfortable life that you have with the current environment, you know, of instant everything, may have to change in order to ensure survival of our species. And I've been talking a long time, so let's see if Carrie's back. Carrie, how you doing?
Yeah, I think my sincere apologies to everybody. This is ridiculous, unprofessional, and I I'm frustrated, so I can only imagine you're frustrated too, and I apologize. Andy, I echo everything you said because this was the first weekend that I got to see my kid in 6 months. 6 months. He just recovered from COVID, so he can't get the vaccine till the end of the month. And it's terrifying because we have this global pandemic. We have the effects of climate change. Obviously, that's what I'm dealing with this morning. And I had to send him back across the country. Now he's an adult. I get it. But we had a long conversation here about what the future holds for him and what we've done here. And I don't want to get too much into my background and what why I'm here in the desert. Uh, but we had a long conversation about being raised to play by the rules and do everything that they tell you to get ahead, the bootstraps and everything else. And what my husband and I did is we stepped back, took a look at that. We learned MMT. If you don't know about MMT, modern monetary theory, please, please take some, use them in personal life. And we flipped everything upside down. So we took the little bit of retirement savings that we had, tiny, took the 10% penalty and cashed out. And now my monthly expenses are $75, I think, not including groceries, but just those are my expenses, $75.
Well, I hope you're
Because we
not paying
did
a lot
everything
for that
from work.
internet.
That's where the 75 is. Yeah, that's my cell service. So it's crazy. But we had a long conversation about what is it that you go to work for. Now, he is fortunate enough where he makes I don't want to out everything, but he makes about $16 an hour, but makes too much overtime, then he has wasted his time because it all goes to taxes. And at the end of the year, taxes back. He ends up actually owing. So the harder he works, the less he makes. Um, so yeah, we had a long conversation about work to live and just do something a little bit different. And I think these are the conversations we need to have because I'm weekend at 50. I've had a good life, right? So apparently we've got 10 years left, 9, 10 years. He's 25. That's to me as a parent, that is so unforgivable that we are all sitting here going, yeah, it's totally okay. Yeah, I'm not going to give up water in my lawn, and I'm not going to put more insulation in my house, and I'm not going to grow a garden on my. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm going to wait for somebody that sits in Congress making $175,000 a year plus full benefits that are paid for by public funds. I'm going to wait for them to solve all of my problems when never in the history of the country has that ever happened, ever. Um, so yeah, and even so, the second story that I had, this was the AOC. This one I thought was interesting because it looked like why. So you have the bipartisan negotiations over the infrastructure bill. And Alex, you're right. Universal broadband, true broadband, not the bullshit that they sell us as broadband, but true broadband speeds. And we need that nationwide right now. And that's part of the infrastructure plan, the Green New Deal. So AOC got mad because 10 of the 21 senators who were part of this were all white, and she threw a fit. Okay, fine, throw a fit that they're all white, whatever. So then she went out and she filed this bill, and I went out and tried to find the text of this text, and you can go and look this up at congress.gov, again, congress.gov, and type in HR 4207. So what she did do with anything that she was really upset about, what she did was the Office of Personnel Management. This is the organization like HR for the Fed. Anybody who is an appointee or an employee has to fill out a form, and it's self-directed. They put in their race, gender, sexual orientation if they want to. So her bill makes it a requirement that this is transparent. Well, first, it's already transparent. By the First Amendment, it has to be transparent, just like court cases and everything else, that by the First Amendment under the Constitution, those have to be publicly available. But again, the employee has to volunteer that information. So it may or may not be accurate, right? So if it's none of your damn business what my orientation.
All right. Did we lose Carrie again? Oh, good. I thought we were going to get through that one. Unfortunately. Just give us a second here. Carrie is frozen. She's just give us a second. We'll just see if her internet clears up for a sec, because I'd like her to oh, looks like she's dropped off here. 1 second. Okay. See if I can get her back on. Just 1 second. Bear with us. So you back, Carrie?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
was
right.
ranting to the dark. So,
I do that at night. Excuse me. Yeah, your internet is really choppy right now.
This is utterly ridiculous, and I so apologize to everybody.
Just let's give it a second here and see if your internet clears up. If not, then what we'll do is we'll end the broadcast a little bit early and see if we can come back on Friday and make up for it. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right. So Carrie is she might. How you doing, Carrie? You got a signal right now? Okay, I would say that it looks like that we're into a spot where Carrie really doesn't have the
Can you
ability
hear
to
me
come back.
now?
I can hear you now. Is your are you stable? Do you want to try to continue, Carrie? Again, folks, I apologize for this. We're at the mercy of Mother Nature right now. Unfortunately, that's the nature of this show, that we do occasionally have these issues, and it can't be helped. Neither Carrie or I have a broadcasting truck in our driveway. Reliant on our internet provider and the weather and all of that good stuff. So, okay, just a second, Carrie. let me see. Yeah, okay. Carrie is now consistently dropping off and not being able to come back. So what I'm going to say is we are going to end the broadcast a little early today because of the internet connections and the weather in New Mexico. I again apologize for that. It's out of our control, but we will be back on Friday. We're going to work on this, see if we can't get a more stable connection for Carrie, and we'll of course add a little extra to that show on Friday. And if things don't get better, it'll definitely be a fucking Friday because Carrie will be angry, which is good because, keep your anger and point it towards the internet providers where it should be. Anyways, I'm going to end the broadcast and say thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. Again, apologizing for the bad signals and the interruptions, but enjoy your Wednesday, and hopefully we will see you bright and early here on Friday morning. Take care.
We bout that, we in the zone, we out here, speeding the facts, how it's supposed to be, Harry the dog.